So lately on the show, we've had some very expensive cars. From the Porsche Taycan that we drove recently, and still to come, the Audi A6 and the bonkers Renault Megane RS. But this week, to stem the tide, we've decided to bring you the budget championing Suzuki Ignis, which has recently been facelifted. Now, this is a very important car because most of you consumers will be buying in this segment. So let's find out what's changed. On test is the range-topping GLX model, which now features a revised bumper with fog lights and a new grille with 4 individual chrome slots. Our favorite styling element has to be the flared wheel arches, which together with the roof rail and 180mm ground clearance almost tempted us to see if we could cross the river. In terms of styling, most manufacturers have gone this way, whereas Suzuki has gone the complete opposite way by giving us a unique looking car. And personally, I've always liked the way the Ignis has looked, and with this facelift, there's subtle changes, but they do add to the quirkiness of the car. Budget vehicles are notorious for feeling unsteady and a bit tinny on the road, and I'm happy to report that that is not the case in the Suzuki Ignis. Ever since I first drove this car 3 years ago, and today still, it feels quite steady on the road. And this is just not on your day-to-day driving roads, but even on the highway, at speed, this car feels rock solid, like you can take it on a long distance trip and you'd have nothing to worry about. Engine-wise, you'd be surprised to know that this car only produces 61 kilowatts and 130 newton-meters of torque, which literally seems like nothing. But the key thing to that is that this car weighs 800 kilograms when it comes to its curb weight. With all the liquids, it weighs just over 1.2 tons. But if you want to compare, a Polo Vivo will weigh about 1.6 tons with all its liquids inside it, which makes a huge difference when it comes to power delivery. One thing we need to remember about budget cars is that they often have skinny tires, and that is the case with the Suzuki Ignis. So yes, it may be comfortable on the road from a day-to-day perspective, but if you do take a corner quite quickly, you might start feeling nervous behind the wheel. So if you're in a bit of a rush, you'll notice that the Ignis does feel a bit lively on the road. It's happy to rev, but at the same time, it will still save on fuel, which is something Suzukis have been known for. They are very good on fuel. For instance, we've spent the last few days driving this car in and around the city, and I'm only averaging 6.6 liters per 100 kilometers, which is a very good figure. Not much has changed on the inside of this facelifted Suzuki Ignis, but they didn't really need to change much because this car still feels as modern as when it was released in 2017. There are still design cues that I absolutely love. For instance, if you look over here, these slats mirror those that you'll find on the outside. And you also find this contrasting color on the dashboard as well as on the door panels. But what I do really like is this aircon unit that looks like a Bluetooth speaker. And with the buttons neatly placed here, it does really give this car a unique feel on the inside. In terms of spec, I've got a touchscreen infotainment system. I've also got a reverse camera and park distance control in this vehicle. And the list goes on. I've got auxiliary inputs, I've got USB, I've got Bluetooth, I've got full electric windows, keyless entry and keyless start. This car is really spec'd with everything you need for your day-to-day driving experience. The facelifted Suzuki Ignis is the perfect example of if it's not broken, don't try fix it. This is still the same car we've come to know and love ever since it was launched a few years ago. And yes, some of you may think this car's not easy on the eyes, but with a starting price of 190,000 Rand, it's definitely easy on the pocket.